I first want to say thank you to each and every one of you who is out here and all of the groups that you represent, the wonderful social advocacy groups, the religious and faith groups, community groups, who care greatly about the lives of these children and the many immigrants and migrants who have come to our nation. My name is Joaquin Castro, and I'm the chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. I also represent San Antonio, Texas in the United States Congress. I wanted to come here on behalf of not just myself, but the members of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus and so many members of Congress who care deeply about this issue and wanted to be here to mark the 1-year anniversary of a grim anniversary of the death of a young girl, a 7-year-old girl, Jacqueline Marquin, and the fact that our government failed her, the fact that she was not treated like a human being. She was not given the care that she needed to simply survive. Hers was the first death that our nation found out about during the Trump administration of a child dying in government custody. And her death shocked the conscience of our nation. It also reminded us that just because you cross a border doesn't mean you're less human. That everybody deserves medical treatment, certain standards of care, dignity and basic respect and humanity. And the years since then, we have tried to do everything that we can to hold this administration accountable and also to change the way young girls and migrants like Jacqueline are treated by the U.S. government. Shortly after her death, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus went out to New Mexico and visited sites there, including Antelope Wells, where she entered. And what we found was stunning. We found a government that was not prepared to treat people who are facing even basic medical needs. They certainly weren't prepared to save a young girl's life. They didn't have the medical resources. They didn't have the training. They didn't have the communications equipment. They didn't have the basic things that you would need to treat people like human beings. And ever since then, we've been fighting to change that. We also know since then that several other children that you're honoring today have died in government custody. We know that the Trump administration is refusing to even give kids the flu vaccine, children and adults. We saw the story just last week of Carlos, a 16-year-old, who literally writhed in his detention cell, dying of the flu, for hours, dying a painful death, and being ignored by the Border Patrol. Ignored while he died. This is a nation with a greater conscience than that. It's not much to ask that when somebody is dying in government care, that somebody do something about it. That somebody simply do something about it while somebody is dying. Is that too much to ask? No. Of anyone? No. It doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, whether you like immigration or you don't like it. When somebody is dying, can we get somebody in the government to move and do something about it? That's the question before us. And I filed legislation along with other members of Congress last week to make sure that every death that occurs in government custody, including in Customs and Border Protection, that every death is reported to the United States Congress so that we can take action. We're also calling again in a press conference tomorrow, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, for the Trump administration to give the flu vaccine to children and to adults so that you don't have more deaths.
Yes.
At least a few of these folks that died because they had the flu. That's something that can be prevented. That's something that doesn't have to happen. The one final thing from me, and I know that I'm talking to people who understand this, but this is very much about the kind of nation that we are and the kind of nation that we want to be. Throughout this country's history, people have taken dangerous treks from all over the world to get here. A dangerous trek to get to the United States is not an uncommon thing throughout American history. That's what many people have done from many lands. My grandmother came here in 1922 as an orphan from Mexico because her parents had died around the time of the Mexican Revolution. And quite frankly, she came here at a time, as many other immigrants did from other lands, where it wasn't that hard to get into the United States and to build a life here. And in the documents that allowed my grandmother to come to this country, there's a line that reads something to the effect of purpose of visit. And scrawled into that line are the words, to live. That she was coming here to live. And that's what Jacqueline and Felipe and Darlene and Carlos were seeking to do also, just as others from past generations have done. We should always treat them as human beings, treat them with respect, with dignity, and this country should continue to be what it has been for generations, a refuge for people who are fleeing oppression and desperation and violence and danger. And I hope that we can get back to that. May God bless you in all the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much, Representative Castro. We really appreciate your witness, and we are praying for you. We need leaders like you right now, speaking up, speaking truth in the halls of power. And that's why we are here right now in front of Customs and Border Patrol,